Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Today is day 11 of PHP in DDCDP23, and today we will start building a mini and fully functional MVC framework in PHP, and today is part 1 of it. Before learning something like Symfony or Laravel and Drupal, we consider this essential to teach building a mini MVC framework which covers routing and many of the concepts on which these popular PHP frameworks have been built. So there is a lot of things to cover. Let's dive in. So far we have been doing a lot of PHP, but all that from a very beginner's perspective. So if you are new to PHP, it's good to know all those things as well. All the things you do in procedural PHP, but now we are going to shift towards something called MVC frameworks or MVC. So it stands for Model View Controller. It's just a way of doing PHP professionally, a pattern, I should say. So I have a page. Let me just first visit the database. I have created two tables. One is articles, and it has just the AID, title and description column, and then the second table is news. It also has three columns: NID, title and description. Nothing new, okay? And both of them have two records right now. So articles also has two records, and news also has two records. And I'm on the index page to just save some time, because we already have been learning these concepts. So this is just DSN and PDO connectivity, and then I am running a query against the PDO object, which is select all from news, and saving it in the news variable, and then looping through it in the body and printing the titles. This is very basic PHP for you. And if I refresh the page, this is the page. So both the articles are being shown on the page. Both the news titles are being shown on the page. So this is nothing new for you. But this is not professional PHP actually. We are mixing PHP as well as HTML and all the logic in just one file. So what is actually MVC framework? We will separate all of these into its subsections called controller, model, controller, and views. So let me try creating a diagram for you first of how this actually works, this concept. So if I open free form, okay, here normally we have a request from a browser. So for example, this is your browser here, or browser is client actually. So you send a request to some web server here, and it responds with this is the request actually for some page. And if I move and flip it, can I flip it? Can I turn it right? Okay, just assume this is the direction, or maybe if we can just get some more items from This is fine. Okay, so it's a response with a response, right? And it gets it here. But what we will do is we will send all the requests to simple one page, not more than one page. So this one page will be index.php. In MVC architecture, this will be index.php, and it is known as front controller. So all the requests should go to just one page, index.php. This is that index.php. So all the requests from the client will go to index.php. Here it will check if it needs some connectivity to the databases. So for example, this is your database server to the right here. Database. So if it needs something from the database, it will call something called model. So model will be a PHP class. This is going to be a model. So model is used for, it's the part of the code which is used to connect to databases or talk to databases. So index.php will contact model, and model will have all the logic for database operations. So it will include it in the index.php page. This model class will be included into this page, index.php. Then index.php will also talk to another PHP file, and it is called view or view dot, for now we will call it view.php. okay, or we can even call it news, because this is a news. So news underscore view.php. So when the database model has responded with its necessary operations, index.php will talk to that particular view, and it will include it into the index.php. So everything will be via index.php. Just one page will be hit. There will be no extra pages on the site. It has a lot of advantages. So that just one page is hit, and you can control it from security standpoint also, and a lot of different things. So all of this will be re-explained from the code we are going to make today. So this is that index.php page. Right now this is the old-fashioned way of doing things. You have been doing it like this: some connectivity at the top of the page, then the query, and then we are inside the body, we are looping through the code. This is nothing new, and you have been doing it all this. So for example, this is index.php, or maybe if I call it news.php, rename it to news.php, and if I copy and paste it, where is paste, and I will make it articles.php, and I will just change it to articles. So now it will show the articles. So here this is in news.php, which is showing the news. News.php, where it is, and this is articles.php. Let me just comment out some code here. So this is news.php, and then articles.php. So this is showing both the articles. Is this clear? So right now this is the scenario. We have one separate page for each table, news and articles, and we are not touching index.php right now, but in MVC frameworks like Laravel or Symfony or even Drupal, what happens is you go through the index.php. So it is known as controller. So what we can do is let me make a index.php page. We also will create two files. Right now I'm placing all of these into just the files, but then we will have folders in future. So I will create a class news underscore controller. You also now know how to do autoloading all this, but this is very basic just to show you how MVC frameworks works. For now I will just name it something very simple, old way. So news controller is going to be a class, and it is class news controller, something like this. Similarly, we will have a class for new file news underscore model.php, and then we will have news underscore views.php or view.php. News underscore view.php is fine for now. Okay, so these are now separate three files. We were doing everything in one file in news.php. This is everything is being done in one file. Now we will break it into three separate files or three separate files, and that this is known as what MVC architecture is. Okay, so in the controller, what controller does is just the name. So controller receives a request. Okay, so this is what controls your application. So for example, I will just comment it out: receives a request. Then if it thinks it needs database connectivity and operations, so what it will do, it will call news model. Okay, just like a telephone operator. For example, if there is a telephone operator in an office, if he or she receives a call, he will transfer it to respective department. Similarly, in controller, what it does is it will check if it needs database connectivity. It will include the relevant file. Then once it gets data from the model, it will call view to display it. Right now in the news.php, we are displaying it even in the same page, in the same file, but in model view controller paradigm, controller basically manages all of these things. So let us do it quickly now. In index.php, for example, the request is for news controller. So what I can do is include or require once. What we have been using in include or require. Okay, so news underscore controller.php. So we are including the news controller.php here. How to manage this? it will have a method. So a controller has a method which does all the things. Okay, that method is public function, for example index or show. Maybe we call it show. The show method will do something. So if I come back to the index.php, we are including the news.controller, so we will now initialize the controller class. So $controller, or maybe we can call it news controller, is equal to what? New, the name of the news controller, it is news controller. Okay, new news controller. Okay, then news underscore controller, and what method we should call? Show, and show will do the rest of the stuff. Now inside the news controller show method, this is the new news controller show method, because it knows that we will show news to the users, so it will include, so let me quickly copy things, this DSN and query everything, and this. Okay, so this code I will do for now. It is just going to be inside the show method of this controller. Okay, so this is the same logic. It connects to the database, and then it runs the query, select all from news, and then it returns all the records, the associative array, and saves it inside the news. That's it. So I can here the role of model starts, and here the role of model ends. Okay, so this is what the model will do. So what do you think we should do with this code? We should move this code to the news model. We should move this code to the news model. So I will just exit, control X, and inside the news model here I will create a class news model like this, and here public function run query or whatever, we'll call it run query for now. Okay, and here I will paste all the code from that portion of the code inside this. So news model code, what it does all the things related to the databases. Okay, and controller basically controls what it should do. So here the role of the model starts, right? Yeah. So what do you think now it should do here? Because we have moved the code to the model itself, now what should it do?
Create a class and then call the method.
Exactly, we will create the object and then call it. So first things first, we will first include it here, and because we are not yet doing, we will do it tomorrow when we are starting the framework, but right now I am doing it the old school way. I will just include the file so that we can call the model. So require, what's the news underscore model.php, and then here news underscore model equals new news model. That's it. Okay, and next what we will do, we will call the news underscore model method, and that is run query. That's it. Okay, so news controller, and then the show, and then the run query. And what run query will do, it will basically, if you come here, it will create a variable news, but what we can do is we can just return it. from here. So if it is returned, what it will do here, it will be, I mean, if we run this, so we can save it inside a variable known as news. Okay, so this method when runs, it will save the records into this news. Okay, so again, if for example news controller gets a request, it will think over it, and when it thinks it needs a model, which model? The one which is used for querying the news. So it includes it and runs that query. The next step is now controller needs to output this news variable. Okay, so it can loop through it here and do everything, but it's delegation of responsibilities. So for that we have the view. So any output in model view controller should be output via the view file. It should not be inside the controller, it should not be inside the model, it should only be inside the file which is called a view. So for view, here we will just have, basically mostly it is HTML. Okay, so how can it be, what should it be? For example, UL start and UL end. Okay, inside here we should start the PHP tag, or maybe for question mark for news as an for each news as an okay, and end for each. Then we should have end for each. And inside here we should have li and li close, and here we should have this n. So again a PHP tag $sign n title, like this. Okay, so what is a view file? View file basically will have just a variable here at the top of the page. For example, it will have some variables available. So here it has news, and the view file will only loop through it or print the variables. So its role is, the view file will have just the role of outputting a variable prepared by the model or any other logic, right? And the model will do all the correspondence with the databases. Normally it should be news, it should be called news or news model. Different platforms have different naming conventions. Normally it is related to the database table, like this news. Okay, but we, for the understanding purpose, are using the news model for now. And the controller actually thinks it's just like the telephone operator in an office. It will just get a request and then think over it, what should it do with it, right? Okay, so what do we expect now? We have the news variable in the controller. So controller will now call the respective view file to output this variable. So what that should be, it will again require news underscore view.php. That's it. So its role is to now call this, and since this news is available, so it will run through it and output it. That's it. This role is this. Normally once we are into the course, we will be passing variables into the view. Right now we are just including it. Okay, so this variable is now, we can create a function, for example call the view function and pass the parameter as a variable, and then it becomes available into that view file. Okay, so if I go to index page now, it requires the news controller, and news controller is initiated, and then news controller that show, or we can even call it deal or whatever, to deal with the request. Okay, let us call it deal. So deal, the controller will be doing all the dealing to whether call model or to whether require views. Okay, so now if I run index.php, hopefully there are no errors. News controller show, news controller run query. Okay, so run query, news controller deal. So cricket, it is now showing the news. So what has it done? Let us recap. Initially we had just one file, this news.php, doing all the things. Right now what we have done, we have changed it to these three files: controller, model and view. All of them have their own responsibilities. Okay, so why is this view very important? Basically because, for example, if you give it to a designer, he just doesn't know how has this news variable become available. He just knows the markup, just like you might have seen the twig. So somebody who is just into designing of HTML markup, so he can deal easily with it, the view file. So you will give your view files, for example the markup inside the view files, to your designer. He will understand it even if he is not a PHP developer. Most of the times he will just add extra markup or something like that. But if you ask somebody, a designer, to work in news.php, for example, it will be very hard for him to understand all the page details. Again, so everything should go through index.php. Here you will include the file and then call the controller and the method you want to show, and that's it. Is this clear? Okay, but we can still access test.php. For example, this is another page. If I access test.php, so it is running the test.php index. There is no index, but still the test.php is being run. We need a web server trick, for which I asked you to change your web server to Apache, so that we can easily, so inside your project you should create a .htaccess file, this one, and you will write these two rules. In .htaccess file you will write these two rules: rewrite engine on, and then rewrite rule is any page which is accessed should be redirected to index.php. Any page which is accessed should be redirected to index.php. So this basically is not PHP, this is Apache related code which we have written. Rewrite engine on, and then rewrite rule any page. This means any page should, which gets accessed, which is not index.php, should be redirected to index.php. So if now I access test.php again, even the page is test.php, but what has happened? It has got redirected to index.php. So for example, abc.php, it also gets redirected to index.php. So any page which is not index.php, it is accessed. Now it will be redirected to index.php. Okay, so normally in a professional environment, you have a source folder, you already have got used to it. In it, we will create 3 folders or maybe 2 folders for now. Models or model, whatever. Then controllers. And controller. Okay, so source has now 2 folders, controller and model. So you will move all your model controllers to the controller folder and models to models. And you now know from the previous lectures how autoloading works via composer. So once you have set up all those, automatically if you have used the use statements perfectly, all the files will automatically be loaded into your. Similarly, we can create a folder called outside the source, maybe because it is accessible, or you can even have it inside the source as well, but we will make it maybe outside new folder and we will call it views. Okay, so we will move the views here. Okay, so everything is structured now. Controller has its controller file, model has its model file, and we are out with just this index page, and we will delete these 3 pages for now. Okay, so if you continue doing your PHP programming in this format, so that you have separate logic for database connectivity which should go into the models. If you are showing something to the user, it should go to the views pages and folders, and then the controllers. So this is known as what? Model, view and controller paradigm of programming. So it has an advantage, everything is controlled. Now if for example I need the articles to query article page, so in the model I will copy paste this easily now, paste, and I will call it articles underscore model. Usually for every database table there is a model, so we'll call it articles model or article model. Okay, and I will change it to articles. Similarly for controllers, if I copy the controller, because both the tables are almost the same, just for this demo, we'll call it articles underscore controller.php. And it will include, because now it's controller for the articles, so it will include the articles model. And that's it. You can easily rename the variables. And it will include the articles view, and here I will copy this and articles underscore view.php, and it will be articles because the variable, and more professionally, once you are calling your view files, variables are passed to the view, so there you can loop through it, okay, to make it even more dynamic. So here here it will be just this. So now if for example we want to show, so we will call article controller, articles controller it is. Now the path has changed, so it's inside source, and then once you have set up auto loading, so this will not be needed. Source controller articles underscore controller, and this is going to be article underscore controller new articles, and this will be article deal, that's it. Okay, articles controller, and it is articles. Normally the controller name is plural and the model's name is singular, but we have used plural here as well. We can easily change it to article once we are into professional framework, but right now it is just for your understanding, so we will take it like this. Now if I refresh the page, if there are no typos, if I go to index.php, so what it is saying, news model, okay. In articles controller we are including news model, because now we are into inside the source directory. So this is slash model slash this, and it will be news model, articles model, and this is going to be views slash articles underscore view. Maybe there are some issues with this because it gets included and then it is trying to include things. We will just sort it out, but once we have this controller articles controller, so this articles controller, so controller articles controller, okay. So it is basically then is this fine? Let me just check. Okay, so we are inside the controller article model. So views and articles underscore view, articles underscore view. Let me just check. Okay, so now it is including the articles. Is this okay up till now? So the concept is, can you please repeat, Wasim, what is MVC framework?
It is model view controller. We have actually initially we have one file from it.
Yeah.
And then we have three files. We have to divide them. So the one is model.
Yeah.
So we actually request the model through controller.
Yeah, controller basically controls, should it hand over the proceedings to the model or to the view? So if it gets it from the model, then it calls the view and it outputs it. And the role of the view is Fahd? Outputting. Okay, so how easy is this? Even for example, after 2 years, you just go back to your code and you just need to check, for example, where I am outputting articles, right? So what should you do? You will just go to the views folder, forget about the source, the controllers and the models and all that, right? You will go to the views and you will, oh, this is the articles, these are being output from here, and here if you see, it will just be one variable which is being looped through, that's it.
Yes, sir.
Right? So you can change the markup, add extra markup or whatever, rather than just going through all the files. It will be nightmare for you over time. Even I know if you have done your own code, procedural code, it will be hard for you to just find your. So in MVC architecture, it becomes very easy as well as very professional as well. Okay, now as we have used .htaccess, this, so all the requests should go to index.php. But in normal, if I in index.php, if I just $print $_ server, and here it should be print _r, right? The $server array, do you remember it?
Yes.
Okay, so if we print _r, this, it's an array actually, and then I just click on exit, where it is. Okay, if I go to view source, where is view source? Where is page view source? Because it's not readable, so control
P.
this is print. Maybe inspect will work something. No, not inspect.
Control U.
Control U.
Control U.
Maybe something. Okay, here it is. We were zooming in, so okay. So the server variable, $server variable has all this information for you. The most important ones for us in an MVC, to set up an MVC architecture, is something called URI. This one, request URI. Okay, so right now it is index.php. Now if I just change it to, say, and normally it is in professional frameworks, .php is not there with the file names. So for example, it can be something like news show. If I just click on enter, news show, it will have no show.php or news.php or something like this, because all the requests are now redirected to the index.php. So we should have a path something like news/show. I think I was able to learn how to zoom things in on Mac. Maybe it is option command plus, yes. So you can see, for example, if I change it to articles, articles slash show, for example, articles slash show. This is for search engine URLs. This is very important. Okay, search engine friendly URLs, there should be no .php or some extension in the URLs. Okay, so if I just click it, and now if I now go back to view page source, so what was the request URI previously? Index.php. Now what it is? Articles / show. So this is very important part. So for example, now I just dump or output server, what was it? Capital or small? Request underscore URI, right? It was okay. So if I go to this page again, and now you can see it is article / show. So this has been achieved via two things. The first one was the server setting in .htaccess file, so all the requests go to index.php, and now we have just outputted this as this article / show, right? This is a very good progress we have made so far. So in the MVC architecture we have controllers, and controllers can have more than one function. Okay, so for example, if article, this is an article controller, articles controller. So right now it is deal, so we can have some other as well, public function show all, for example, and then we can have one function called public function show 10, like this. So a controller can have many methods, right? And this function and this function. If we go to index.php, here for example this code, we are dealing this function, calling this function, and if we call the show all, so it will show all. Yes. For example, the code, if we call show 10, so it will show the 10 method. So controller can have a lot of methods, and all of those you can call, right? So now my question to you is, so for example, if this is articles and this is show, both of them can be used as, this one is controller and this one is method. So we can dynamically call them through this. How can we do that? So for example, I want to divide it into two parts. So how can I do it? Through explode function. So maybe URL underscore pieces, this should be an array which is an explode. What should it be exploded? By this, and what? The server request URI. You will get it what I actually want to do. Okay, and if I print underscore r URL underscore pieces, and now if I just view source, so you can see the in 0, because it is being cut out by this, so the 0 we don't need. Then it is articles and show. Yes. The second one is, the first one is the first key is articles and the second key is show. Yes. Okay, so for example, I can say controller, this is a, what it should be, This is your test for arrays. Shabas. Piece is 1. And then method. And by the way, in controllers, a method is known as action because it does something. Okay, so we call it action. So action is URL with pieces 2. Okay. Is this clear? The first one is going to be the controller we are going to run, and the second one should be the method. And this includes this is the required statement. Okay. Okay, so you can make something like if controller is equal to articles. If controller is equal to articles, but what does this mean? This one is article. This first value is articles, right? So what should it do? It should include this, require this. If it is news, for example, then it should require news controller. News. Okay, so then you can move all the code inside this. For example, we will make it all dynamic once we start the real framework. Okay, so we are including the controller, and then we are calling the new controller and articles controller. Which method should we call? Deal. But deal is not dynamic. Action should be dynamic, whatever is the second parameter. So it will become $action like this. And similarly, this code, this is news controller. And again this will be news underscore controller and action. Okay, this is somewhat dynamic now. Okay, and we are not going to use the exit now. So if I call article slash show, or maybe article slash deal now, article slash show for example, or deal, so what should it output? The deal function, right? If I go to the show, if I go to the articles controller and it has show all and show, then maybe just show, make show, and we will make it show all. And for now I will just print just a message. Okay, this may be again some database logic or whatever, and it will call its respective controller of model and all. But here, just for understanding, this is showing, for example, one article, and we will do the same for this. This is showing all articles. So in MVC, each method or function which is called action in controller can be a separate page, can be like a separate page in your custom PHP. For example, if you needed to show something on a different URL in custom your own PHP, what should you do? You will create show.php, show all.php, something like this. But in MVC, in controllers, you can create separate methods and they will be like a separate page for you. Okay, so if now I articles deal, if I make it show, just show, so what it will be, this is showing one article, right?
Yes, sir.
If I make it, what was the second one?
Show all.
Show all, so this is showing all articles, right? What difference do you see from this approach to your procedural PHP approach? You would create separate pages.
Yes, sir.
Also there would be .php with it. Also these sort of pages, the URLs were not possible before. Just possible if you had created a folder called articles and then it should have a show all.php.
Yes, sir.
But now you can have anything like this, for example, this a URL like this, and still it will be doing something, because a controller's method will be run through it. Let us try news now. News /deal. So maybe we are still missing some includes over there. Once we are done with auto loading, so these problems will go. So let us go back to articles /show. It is showing one article. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now you understand how it is doing all this. Let me now go to the second concept, which is, because this is now URL based, it is still dynamic, but frameworks like Laravel or Symfony or Drupal, there is a concept of routing, and routing is even available in React.js and all such libraries as well. So in source we can create a file called router.php. New file, router.php. Okay, and let us make it a class router or router. It is pronounced router as well. We Pakistanis normally see router or maybe router. So router is also used for its pronunciation. So it can have a private property or public property, whatever you call it. Public array, private array, routes or routes equals, and we will initialize it with an empty array. Okay, now okay, what will this route array have? Okay, so for example, let me just tell you through comments. This is, if I access, say for example, country, if the URL is country / Pakistan, for example, if here I call country / Pakistan, the URL is country / Pakistan. So what do you think should be the country and should be Pakistan? So this path will have, this is the path. Okay, so in it, if the path is this, the controller should be Pakistan and action should be, a controller should be country and action should be Pakistan. Okay, if I call products, for example, if the path is just products, so it can have some controller. For example, controller is products and action is show, like this. It's just the path. So if for example the path is cricket, so it can have a controller like is equal to supports action is equal to cricket. Anything is possible. This is just the path, and then it will show us what the controller and the actions are. This array will have such values. Okay, I will just comment all of this for your understanding. You will get to know what I mean actually. Okay, so now I will create a public function, add to routes or routes. Okay, and it will be passed two things. It will be passed a path and an array, and the array can be parameters, or maybe we can call it details or whatever you can call it. Okay, this array, this function will be passed two things, the path and details. Details will be an array actually, and we can have an empty array also. So what it will do is this dot, this is the routes array, right? So routes equals what? Sorry, path equals $path, like this, and this routes params or anything is equal to details. Okay, so this array will have controller and action, and this is the path, and you will get a sense of it once we call it. Okay, we will make another function and we will call it match, and match will be passed a path also, like this. So this is the path. If a path is passed to it, this dot routes, or maybe array underscore. Do you how to? I will just come back to this. Okay, but for now just we are going to add routes to this path. In index.php, the first thing is to include this route variable, route file. So require underscore once at the top of the page, somewhere here, require, and it is going to be, what's the name of the file? After autoloading, it all will be done automatically. So source router.php. Okay. Source router is equal to required this. Now it has we have access to the router class, this one. So what we can do with it, initialize it. Okay, so where it is? Okay, so $ router equals new router, like this, and it has a method router add routes, or what was the name? Add to routes. So what will it be passed? Two things, a path, an array. So for example, if I pass it Drupal /Pakistan/wa, for example, just this is the path. Okay, so this is the first argument. The second will be an array again, and that will be controller for example we can call the controller as maybe Drupal, and the second will be action. Action is the method, okay, and action will be maybe details, like this. Okay, is this okay, or there is still confusion? This is the path, because if you go back to the router, add to route definition, it is passed two values. One is paths, the other one is details, and details actually is also is an array. Okay, so here we have passed it, this is the route. So for example, if I now access, it will be like this. The URL will be drupak/pakistan/wah. So once it is accessed, which controller should be called and which action should be called, right? So we are passing that detail here. So if this is the URL, this controller, the controller should be Drupal and the action should be details. Got it? Similarly, we can add a lot of such routes, and this is known as routing details. So for example, if we have another path which is sports/cricket, so a controller can be sports and action can be cricket, and so on. You can just have any path here now. So this, if the path is something else, it should be showing that details here. Okay, now if how can we know what the path is? I just told you about it. This is request URI.
Yes, sir.
So whatever is the request URI, it should be this. Okay, yeah. So yeah, but now we need to check it. Okay, the one thing is, if I just dump it now, you will understand. Maybe print_r, and it is going to be route. What's the name of that variable? Array. Let us for now make it public so that we can access it. Routes. So if I routes is going to be an array, and if I just exit it afterwards, so what are you expecting the contents of the routes to be?
The path and the detail array.
Well done. So it is actually, if I go back to this, you can see whatever are we adding to the route. So it has two keys. The array has two keys, path and params. So that will be added to the path key and the params key. The details will be added to the params key. If I refresh the home page now, on got to function add to routes on null in. Okay, maybe okay, this is route or not route. Line 16, $sign. Okay, so this is the we are adding what are we doing is we are missing one bracket like this. Now it will show both the records. So the 0 is an array which has a path and then parents, and similarly path and parents. Okay,
Yes.
after the break we will continue with this. So this is how the routes array right now is, but let us change it a bit so that it is easier to find out the keys. So let us make it this way. I think this will be the easiest structure. Even let me remove this one. So if we make the key as the path as the key, so the path will become the key of the array, and then the details will be its value. So in index.php we'll change it accordingly. So add to routes now this, and this is the details. So if we print r it again and refresh the page, so you can see now this is the key. Each path in the router is the key and then the value. So we can easily grab, for example, if I give this the path Drupal Pakistan Wah, so the controller will be Drupal and the action will be details. Similarly, if I give the path sports cricket, so it will become the key of the array and then the controller and the sports. So this structure is easier to grab and understand. So what we can do is, in the router, because it is related with the routes, so in the router.php here we will have a match function which will return a boolean. So if it matches, it will return a boolean, or maybe it will return boolean or an array. Rather it will return an array or boolean. Okay, so what it will do is it will check the path passed to this function against this array. So if array underscore key underscore exists, this is a function which returns a boolean. So if which key exists, this path, and in which array, this $, this routes. So if this key exists in this routes array, it means there is an entry in the router table.
Yes, sir.
Okay, in the router key. So what we will do, we will return what? Shabas, tell me. This dot route and the path. It means it will return the array which is the sub array, details array,
Yes,
which is controller and
action.
action. Otherwise it will return false. Okay, why return false? If it doesn't match, if array underscore key is this, otherwise this will return path, the key, otherwise false. So it actually covers both the conditions of array and boolean. Can anybody tell me, if this returns this, so will this be run or not?
No, sir.
Why?
Because if else condition.
No, it is not else, but still it will not be run. So why? Any technical reason for this? This is known as unreachable code in programming. Why unreachable?
After the return statement, it will not run.
Exactly. If one return statement runs in a function, that's it. Then subsequent returns will not be running.
Yes, sir.
So it will not reach here. So it acts like else. Okay, you can use else, but no need to use else, because if it becomes true, so this return will stop the function further. Okay, so now if we have to check whether a key exists or not in an array, what we will do, we'll go again to the index.php here and here, for example, as I said, the request server URL is the main thing. That's what gives us the URL in the address bar. So we will check it against router match, and what this, it means if this is matched, right? So what it will return, if this is matched, it will return the array for detail array, or we can call it detail, $sign detail. Okay, if it matches, so it will return the detail array, otherwise it will return false, because the logic is like this. Now if, for example, so we can include it inside if statement. So if, and we will move this to this, if this, so we have the details now, else print route not found, right? Here we can use the logic for detail. So right now I will just print _r $sign detail, just to check if we are getting the right things. So the first route is Drupal, and we will, okay, let us comment this one out. So the first path is Drupal Pakistan wa. So if this is available, right now this is available, right? So what will it return? This array. Controller is Drupal and action is details. Otherwise it will return route not found if this is not there. So in the URL, if I give it this Drupal Pakistan wa, so what will it return? It returns this Drupal Pakistan wa, and still it is returning route not found. Let me just check. Maybe we need this. Let us just close the rest of the print _r so that we don't get confused. Or maybe we need this so that we know what is the URI. It's Drupal Pakistan and wa, okay, the one which is being output, the leading slash is there. Undefined route in online 27. Online 27. Okay, this is routes, not route. Okay, now let me this is the route, so dot br the break, and here we are outputting if detail is equal to this, so it is print _r in the detail array, otherwise route not found. So if we refresh the page, so this is the server. Did we save it? Print _r, sorry, this is print _r server URI. This should be print dot br. Okay, so this is the URI. Basically URI has this leading slash also. Okay, so if this is the URI, then the controller is returned, the detail is returned, which is controller has. If I just go to the view page source so you can better understand, controller is Drupal and action is details. So if any URI is there in the router, it will return us controller and its action, right? So what we can easily do now, inside this if statement, if we will include the relevant class, simple. Okay, so for example, now we have inside the controller we should have better names. So for example, the class returned is Drupal, the controller name is Drupal, and the details is, the action is details. So we should have a class here called new file Drupal.php. Here we will have just class Drupal, and the method is action is details. So public function details, and here we will just output for now, print this is details of Drupal, for example, right? So it will include this file, and then we will call the new on it with the name of the class and method. Okay, so where is index? So require this and the name of the file should be detail $, detail and controller. Hopefully you understand concatenations now. So this will include the relevant class, and then we can use controller equals new. So here what will be here? Drupal, but how to access it? We can access this. So maybe class is equal to like this, right? So this is equal to new class, like this, and now we will call the function. So the action is equal to, it has an easier way also. Do you know how to do this? I mean, we are assigning whatever is in the array to a variable, right? So we can have a shortcut for this also. If you are good in JavaScript, you can answer, because this is now in PHP 2. Okay, so, class and action. Okay, so class and action. So here we have initiated the class, and now we will call the action. So controller $action. That's it, right? So all of this is not dynamic. If the capitalization is not making a problem, so we will have something. This is details of Drupal, right? So where is this coming from? This is coming from this Drupal controller and the details page.
Yes.
Now let me, for example, I create another function and call it history, right? This is just a method in the class, not a separate page now, thanks to the MVC architecture we are moving towards. So print this is the history of Drupal, for example, right? So how to access this page now? Anybody? First we will have to Yeah, how to access it dynamically? We will first have we need to have this inside the routing table
Yes,
in the root
exactly.
array. So how can we do this? Here we will create another entry in the array and we will call it history, like this. So Drupal Pakistan slash history.
Yes.
So the controller is Drupal and the action will be history,
History.
which we just created, this one. So now if that URL is accessed, because it is now inside the routing table, so if it is there, it will access this controller and this history. So once what will this controller be, then it will include the Drupal file and run the history controller here, because all of this is now dynamic. So for example, if I change the var to history, so this is history of Drupal. Let me just get all of this off the output variables above. And the next one is, where was it? This one. Okay, if we give something else in the page, for example this, so what do you expect now? Will it run or it will give some error?
No, sir. Route not found.
Exactly, route not found. Why? Because this entry has not been made into this array.
Yes, sir.
All of the pages now are dependent upon this array. So if, for example, I change this to just history, the path is just history now, like this. Okay, path is just history. So the controller is Drupal and action is history.
Yes, sir.
So if I just access history, what are you expecting? Just history, okay? Like this, just this is history of Drupal. This is such a powerful system now. It all now depends, because it will check if it meets the array key history. It will return the details array. Detail array has controller and action. So it dynamically calls those. It checks Drupal is the controller and action is the history, and it calls it. Okay. For example, if I have to create a mission page, prior to this, what would you do? You would create a separate mission.php,
Yes, sir.
include connections and all and everything. But here we'll just add a route to the table. This is, by the way, known as routing table. So for example, this is mission, and so the action should be Drupal and the history should change the mission. So mission is now the action. So I will just add a new method inside
Yes, sir.
the history.
Yes.
It will become mission. Okay, and this is the mission of Drupal. And if I just refresh it now, it will be mission. This is mission of Drupal, right?
Yes.
Is this clear?
Yes.
Now this is a very powerful system, but it has one problem right now. For example, if you have 1000 pages in the site,
Yes, sir.
so you will have to make 1000 entries here.
Yes.
We need a system to automate this process also, and that's why we will need something called regular expression based routing, which we will cover in the next lecture after the break.
Sure.
So welcome after the break. Now you know the basics of what an MVC architecture is, but we have to improve upon all this because it is still not feasible code. So you may be seeing something like if I go to controller, we are requiring the files. So this is not the way out. What should we do so that we can avoid these physical requires? Yes. So we have to introduce auto-loading into our project. How can we do that? First, we will create a file and call it composer.json. Here we will have a key in the JSON auto load, and the key should be PSR-4. Here we need to have the entry for this source, so maybe we can call it app, and with a why a double slash? Because the namespace will have a single slash and it's a string here, so PHP needs to know that we need to escape this one so that it is interpreted as a slash. So the slash, and then it should refer to source directory. This is the source directory, so whichever classes are placed in the source directory, those will be actually app based, referred as app. Also, because this is going to be a framework, and so we need to have a folder for framework also, framework, and the same thing, and we will have a folder for framework also, like this. So that's it. The autoload key has a subkey of PSR4, and it has an app entry which refers to the source folder, and framework which refers to the framework folder. So we will create a new folder here as well. We'll call it framework. So this is not folder. So all those files which we can move to other projects, for example, they will go to the framework folder, and source, here we will have the project specific code like controllers and all. So for example, if we can even place it on some GitHub repository, Git repository, so that other people can download it once we have created the framework, or even in other projects we can use that framework folder. That's why we are separating it from the source. Otherwise you can have it inside the source directory as well. Excuse me. Okay, the first thing you do after you have made some entry in composer.json is go to your terminal and run this command, which is ddef, because we are inside the ddef. So ddef composer dump dash auto load, so that these changes are picked by composer. The next thing is we will go through all the classes we have so far created, so that we remove the hard coded entry for includes, and all of this will be automatic. Then for PSR4 we need to have capital names of the files where classes are. So this is articles controller, so we can rename this file to articles controller. Here we should have a namespace now, because we have named it app. So app, and then inside the app source, which is app, actually we have a controller, so it should be controller. It can be controllers also. Okay, let us rename it to controllers. It makes more sense because there will be more than one controller inside the directory. So here it will be then controllers, right? Similarly, Drupal.php, so we will name it as Drupal capital word, and the namespace will be app / controllers, and the news controller namespace app slash controllers, and rename this file to news controller. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Actually, in the first part of this lecture, we needed to know about what MVC is. That's why we didn't lay this foundation at the beginning, but we are doing it now. The next is model, or we can even rename them to models as well. And inside the models, we will have article model. So rename it to article. All of these things we have learned already. So namespace will be app slash what? Models. Good. And then the news model. So namespace app slash models. And the file name should be like this. Good. Okay, now we are going in the router.php file. So since we will need it in other projects as well, so it should go to the framework folder. So we will move it to framework and rename, because this provides a functionality which can be reused. So all such code which can be reused should go to the framework folder. Here we will rename it to capital R router, and what should be the namespace here? Yes, good. Framework. That's it, because it's in the root directory of the framework. That's why. And if we come back to the composer.json file, so you can see the framework directory refers to the framework folder. So we are in the root of the framework. That's why we are just giving it the framework namespace. Now let us come to in all the individual files. Maybe we should start from index.php. First things first, because we can easily forget this, so we should require underscore once, and it should be vendor slash autoload.php. Otherwise these files won't be automatically, these classes won't be automatically included in the file. The next thing is, wherever we are requiring this, so we should now not do this. So let us remove all these things. And this new router, it means we should have a use statement somewhere here. Use framework slash router, or framework router is fine too. So now this should be router. Here we are requiring inside the this function, if detail is equal to router match this, because in the router we have a match method which is past the request URI. It has the URL actually, so it is requiring this .php, and we should remove this because now it will be automatically done for us. So this basically should do it for us. Maybe the class name needs some changes, so we need to have other here namespace equals app slash controller slash like this. So the class should be then namespace and dot means concatenation, so that this app controller is concatenated with the name of the class. And detail controller, we will go back to this code again, but this provides us the controller name. So it can be, for example, if I come to the source directory controllers, so it can be articles controller, for example. So here it will be app controller, articles controller, and so on. And then we will call the class and the action, and if it doesn't find it, so route not found. Once we are into the framework, we will be using, and let us also remove all this code, we don't need it now. Okay, for example, if I need to, we have some controllers, this Drupal one. So app controllers is its namespace, and it has three methods: details, history, and mission. So for example, if I need to check, if I go to the route, and we have this route Drupal, Pakistan, and Wah. This is a URL, right?
Yes.
So when this is accessed, it should be having the control should be Drupal and the action should be details. So let us try if this is working now. Route not found. Okay, what it states is app controller Drupal not found in on line 26. But at least it has, if you access Drupal Pakistan Wah, it says app app controller and Drupal not found. What's the name of the class?
Drupal. D capital.
D is capital. So what we can do is, we can, in the index.php here, the detail, so we can use UC first. What will UC first do?
First character will be capital.
It will make the first character capital. Okay, app controller Drupal not found in on line 26. Have we included it properly? Autoload.php. We should remove this URL as well. Okay. App controller. Okay, it's controllers. Nobody's telling me this because we changed it, right? So hopefully it will be now working. This is the details of the, it is coming now from that particular so this is Drupal file, this is the method details. So if we access this URL Drupal Pakistan Wah, it will mean that entry for this is available, and the controller class is Drupal, and the details is the method which will be called, right? So far so good, it works well. But for example, this is news controller. So okay, so let us go through all these files individually, and if we are including any classes, we should not be doing so by requiring. Okay, so we will remove these includes because they will now be automatically included for us using the use. So article model, so it should be use what app slash models slash article model. Okay, so app models article model. So this class now will be available with us, this one. we'll leave the views for now. And for example, if we now need to have a URL for URL for show, this is showing one article. How can we do it? Anybody? What entry should we make in the router?
Controller should be article controller, and the action should be show.
Article controller, action should be this one. For now, this one, okay? Show. So it will be article controller and show. So how can we do this? For example, let me add another one. So for example, I show slash article. For example, the path is show slash article. That's it. Okay. So what should be controller? This one, articles controller. So it will be articles controller. Okay. This also is very tricky. We will have it covered at the end of the this framework as well, because now we need to have the article as this and the second word as this there when we are calling, but right now it will make a problem probably. But let us make it article controller, and then the action should be show. So if we access this path show slash article, it will call this controller and this action. Okay, so let us try. Maybe it will not be working. So show slash article, and like it says app controllers article controller not found. So this is known as which case? It is when the first letter is small and the second word is capital, it is known as camel case. Let me just research it. Types of variable names for classes. In PHP, one is camel case, another one is something like
Pascal case.
yeah, we can call it Pascal case, and it has another word also. I'm just not getting it. Yes, something like this we need actually. Okay, so custom but for now we will do it at the last of this lecture. For now I will change the class name to articles controller. Okay, this is not good practice at the moment, but let us save some time because we have a lot to do. So now the class name is articles controller, right? And this will be articles controller, and the name should be now it is showing. Okay, basically what we need to do is we should first convert it's a function. We'll do it at the last. Okay, it's not that difficult, but for now, just to save some time, we've changed the article, the controller name as a single word. Okay, so it is now being considered by the PSR4 standards. So at any given time, if you need now any new entry, for example any new URL, so you will have to do this inside this routing structure. So you can assume if, for example, there are 100 pages on your site, so you will have to make 100 entries here. So this is not feasible. And if there are, for example, millions of pages on your website, so you will have to make millions of entries in this array, which is not the most feasible thing to do. So we have to do something called regular expressions before that, so that we can easily dump variables. I will first install Symfonies, and that's the advantage of deploying autoloads in your application, so that we can use something like Symfony auto var dump. Now we do have composer, so we'll just copy this. Composer require --dev Symfony var dumper. Okay, it has been downloaded for us, and just to check if it is working fine, for example, if I have to dump the details we are getting here, we'll just use detail, and if all things are fine, it will let us, where it is. Okay, so it is returning the controller is articles controller and action is show. So the dump is now working fine. So let us now come back to what regular expressions are. Just to test, maybe we can quickly create a new controller. And we will call it regex. Regex.php. It will be regex. And the function should be test. So here we will be printing some regular expressions, right? Let us remove all the other two. Okay, we have created a class for controllers. What's the next thing to do? Yes, namespace already it is app controllers. And what's the last thing to do? We need to have an entry in the routing table or the routes. So here we will create a new one, and we will call it maybe just regex, like this. Regular expressions also are called regex. So the controller should be regex.php, and the action is test. That's it. Now if we go to regex, just the regex, so it will actually, let us change, this is details of regex. So this is working fine. Okay, let us start with what regular expressions are. So in PHP, to test whether something some text matches a regular expression, which is a pattern mechanism in many programming languages. So the function used is break_match. it has 3 arguments. The first one is the pattern. We will define this pattern now, and the second one is the text which we will be testing. So for example, mostly we will in this it will be some path, okay, and then another one is matches, which is going to be an array. So for example, we can start the pattern variable here. The same pattern equals, this is because it is going to be a string, it is enclosed in quotation marks, or it can be double quotation marks as well. Then we can have a delimiter for all your regular expression should be enclosed in these delimiters. Okay, so for example, if I just search news like this, and by the way, we should go to one of the websites as well, which is known as regex 00 regex101.com. okay, so you can test all your regex here as well. Okay, so the text should be this. For example, now if the path is news slash, for example, 10, the path is news slash 10, and if it matches it, the preg underscore function returns either 1 or 0. So we can enclose it inside the if statement. If this, it means if this is true, this print, or dump is the right one. Now it has matched, and else dump, oops, it has not matched, right? So do you think it will match? This is the pattern, this is the news. So let us try now. Let us close all other stuff. Okay, it has matched. Why? Because this is literal string, so any occurrence of this will mean in this string path, if it is occurring, it means this will match it. This is hard coded string, okay, in the pattern. But if we use this character and then the $sign character, it will not be found, not be. Why? Because now this is the starting character, this is the ending. So what this means is that the test string should match exactly this value. Previously it was just sort of contains keyword, but now it will exactly search for this. So if we refresh the page, oops, it has not matched. Okay, how to make it exactly match this now? What should we do? Excuse me. We'll remove this /10, and now let us try. So it has matched. So if you have to use an exact string to be matched, you have to use the starting character and the ending $sign. Okay, but there is one confusion. For example, in past we have news/10/view or something like this. So we are using the slashes here in the pattern also, and there are slashes inside the paths also. So For delimiters we can use hash also. So let us switch to hash like this, so it won't be then confusing. So regular expressions can be enclosed inside hashes as delimiters also, right? So we, for this exercise in this application, we will be using hashes. Okay, let us use it again. News, the path is news and the pattern is this, and if we refresh it will be, it has matched. Okay, there is a third parameter to the preg underscore match function, which is called matches. It can be anything, but for understanding purposes it can be called matches or ABC or whatever, but matches is the right word. So if preg underscore match, if this matches, let us dump the matches array also. Matches, what do you expect in this matches array? The term which gets found. Okay, so it has this key, whatever is found is known as, is stored inside the matches array. Okay, let us move on. So for example, in the pattern we need something like, this is hard coded, mostly you won't do this, maybe just character or two. So if I use dot and then plus, okay, dot and plus. Dot means any character, it's a wildcard character, and the plus means one or more times, one or, yeah, so the plus means one or more times. So if there is nothing, for example this string, do you think it will match? Because plus means at least one time this should be occurring. Okay, so it won't be matching. Oops, it has not matched. But if I change this plus to this star, it means 0 or more times. Now it would it match or not? So it has matched, right? Because there is nothing. So the dot means a wild character, and the plus means one or more times, and the star means 0 or more times. So if I change it back to plus, and here I use, for example, 5, will it match now? Any character, so 5 is also a character, it's 1, at least one or more times, right? So it has matched. Similarly, if I use, for example, some word like this, so it will match. Now we can have ranges also. Okay, ranges are inside the square brackets like this. So A to Z, for example, A to Z plus, what does this mean? Any character between A to Z, 1 or more times. So do you think this will match?
No, sir.
Why?
Because
We have defined the range between A to Z.
Exactly. So this won't match, but if we use A, B, C, D or whatever, so why? Because
it is in the range.
it is in the range and it is repeating as well.
Yes, sir. It can be more.
So now it has matched, and you can see in the matches array that whatever is matched is saved for you so that you can manipulate it for your purposes or needs. Okay, similarly we can have within the range 0 to 9 also. So now either this or this will be matched. So now if we change it to numbers, do you think it will be matched? It will be matched. Okay, similarly, for example, we use a, just a, hold on, a dot b. Okay, if you use a dot b, a dot is used for wildcard characters. So if I use a to b, do you think this will be matched?
Yes.
It is matched. Why? Because dot means wild, so any character can go inside this. It can be some text also, whatever. Okay, and if I want to have a repetition of these, what can we do? This. So what does this mean? 0 or more times.
Yes, sir.
So do you think AB will be matched?
Yes, sir.
Why?
Because it can allow 0 or more times.
Exactly. So this will be matched. But if I change it to plus, what do you think it should be then? Because
At least one character.
at least one character should be there, and it is not there, that's why it's not being matched. Okay, we can have a very detailed session on regular expressions, but dot means wildcard character, any character but a single one. Okay, so if we need repetition, so we will use star or plus with it. Okay, let us create a string for our controllers at the moment. We have a controller and then an action, a controller and an action. So let us do that for now. The start is this and end is this. So here we will write something. We will use slashes for the whatever it is. So this should be controller, and then the another should be action, these two. Okay, so this is controller, this is action, but actually we need to change it to range. Okay, this is not the hard-coded word. So if we leave it now like this, so how should be the path so that it is matched? Controller slash action. But we don't do this. We can have different names for the controller
Yes, sir.
and different names for the actions. Right now it will be matched. If we refresh, do you think it will be matched?
Yes, sir.
Yes, it has been matched. But we need different URLs here. For this purpose, in the pattern we will have a range. The range is A to Z, for example, this, and one or more times. So plus, and then action also is A to Z and one or more times, like this. Now, for example, if I check Drupal slash action or view, whatever, do you think this will be matched?
Yes, sir.
It is being matched, right? So at least we have made this, we have not yet used for our checking of controller and actions, but at least we are building something which can be used for that purpose. So any range of A to Z with a plus means any repetition. So it first checks D, then R, then U, all of these are done. That's why this repetition character is this. The next thing is we can name. Now we will capture the, and also you should be having an eye on the matches array. If I just refresh again, let us look at it. The matches array has one key, numeric array, which is the string which has been matched, which is Drupal/view. Now we will use captured groups. This is known as captured group. So inside the slash up to the next slash, like this. Okay, we will use small brackets, and sorry, not here, here. So this small bracket means captured group. Okay, so this is one group, because it was matching it as a whole previously. Now it will be divided into subgroups. This is one group, and we will leave the slash as this, and this is another group, like this. So now it has two groups. So if we check the matches array now, it will have no consequences on matching of this. It will still be matching it, but previously only this entry was being made in the match array. Now you can notice, if I refresh the page, now it has two further entries. So those captured groups have their own entries inside the matches array now. One is Drupal, another is view. So you can see, at least we have now separated the controller name and the action name. How can I grab, for example, if I need Drupal as the controller name, so how can I grab it? Matches 1. And if I have to grab the view, matches 2, it will be matches 2. We can further improve it, and we can use something called named captured groups, and it can be inside, it should be placed inside the captured group. This is the captured group between the parentheses. Okay, so here we will use question mark like this, then the less than sign and greater than sign, and here you can use the name of the variable or whatever. So we will call it controller. So the how to do it: question mark, less than sign, the name of the variable, and greater than sign. So now we have given a name to the captured group. Previously that was being fetched as a numeric array key, but now it will have this key in the matches array. Similarly, inside the other one, we can use question mark, less than sign, greater than sign, and here it will be action. Are you getting it?
Yes.
Okay, so if I just refresh the page now, what do you expect here? It will have the associative keys now for controller and action also. So now you can see it has a controller key and the value is Drupal, and it has action and its value is view. Is this clear? So the matches array now, if I need to access controller, what it should be? Matches controller, matches action. Okay, now we don't need these three extra, this and this, these numeric based keys. We just need which ones? Controller and action. So what we can do is, we are dumping the matches array here. So above it we will just use array underscore filter, and we will assign it to matches again. Matches is equal to array underscore filter. It will be passed the name of the matches array, and there is the second argument is underscore string, and the third one is, there is a key. Let me just Google it quickly because I have turned off auto suggestion. So array filter, this one, array filter use key. The third argument is, it's a constant array filter use key, and this. So now what this code should do, array filter will filter the matches array, and if it is a string, only then it will keep it, otherwise it will remove all the numeric array keys. And if I dump it again, so what do you expect now? Here all the numeric keys will be gone, and only the associative array, the text based keys will be there. So now it has controller is this and action is this. Got it?
Yes.
Okay, so now this pattern is can be used to fetch controller and action from the this. So if I refresh again, so you can see the matches array now has a controller key and action key, but we need to have this placed inside our router.php, which is now inside the framework. So here, if you remember, we were matching the routes in this array. So for example, if this is a route, if this key exists, it means if the path is this, it will check it. If it exists, so this array will be returned, which is a controller and action. But now we need to have a system, for example, like this. Let me just quickly copy and paste this one. So we need to have this dynamic now, and here we will place a route which is controller slash action, something like this. Okay, so this is now a route, and this is a controller, and this is an action, but we are not hard coding it. Okay, we need these middle brackets are used just for naming convention for variables. So this controller is basically a variable now, and this action is a variable now. Okay, so once this is accessed, it can be anything. For example, it can be Drupal / view, like this. But we need a variable sort of thing. So we have placed this in the route as well, the controller variable and the action variable. Okay, so what should be accessed? Does this make any sense now, the array, this array? It should mean, previously we were using hard coded values for URLs, so it would require a controller entry and an action entry. But now this is just variables. So what will it mean? For example, if it is /news/view, for example, news/view. So news will mean the name of the controller, and view will be action. So we don't need this array anymore, this one, the second one. So the function which actually created, which was used for this in the router, if you remember, add to routes, so it needed paths and details was the array. So we can make this equal to array, means what does this mean? The default value can be an empty array. Okay, so this is for this entry, because we don't need any array here, because it will automatically be fetched from the controller and action. So whatever we have created now in the regex, we should use this in the match array, but with this addition, this actually is a variable now. So I will go to this one. If you remember, it has two methods. One was add to routes and another one is match. So if the match is called, if the key is there, we return the details array. And in the index.php, here you can see router match, so it is passed the request URL. Okay, one thing I have forgotten, if I just print, or maybe here, dump request URL. By the way, there is one more function in the Symfony var dumper. If we, after the dump, if we use exit, so there is a shortcut for this. We can use dd server request URL. So now if I refresh the index page, for example, if it is Drupak/Pakistan/wa, okay, it should be after the auto load. Okay, so the URL is Drupak/Pakistan/wa. Okay, but we can have query parameters here as well. For example, page is equal to 10, like this. You already know about query parameters. So now the URL, the server URL will have this as well. So we need to remove this part from the URL over here. For example, request URL, this. So I think it is parse_URL method. Let me just search parse URL. I think this one is what we need. So we'll change it to dd, and the server this is, what is this called in PHP? Constants. Okay, so now that query string has been removed. We just need the name of the URL before the query string. So in your code we have been using this request URI, right? So if it has query parameters, it will not be working then. So we have removed those query parameters through this code. So let us just assign this to a variable somewhere. Maybe at the top of the page, $sign URL or URL underscore only, so that you know that query parameters are not being entertained. So this will now be passed to the match function in the router we have. Go through the code and you will understand. Okay, so if the router match URL, it will return this detail, and this is known as these are the names of controller and actions. So if that is what return, the namespace is app controllers, and we capitalize the first one, and then we include the use the controller and to initiate it, and then the action. So this method is what in the router match. This is that method. It is passed a path URL basically. Okay, so we have now removed the query string format so that is not mixed up. So if that key exists in this routes array, if that key is there, it means the path is there. So it returns the name of the, this is also array, it returns the name of the controller and action. So for example, let me dump it there so that you understand what is being returned. Dump detail. So the controller is Drupal and action is details. Once you access this, now the query parameter is not taken into consideration, and Drupal/Pakistan/wa, it returns what? Controller and action. And from where does it return this? In the index, if you see, this is an entry,
Yes, sir.
so the key exists, and this key has these values, controller and
Controller and
action.
Yes, sir.
Now we will change, we will now use our code to create something related to these variables in the route now. So in the routes match here, what should we do? For now, this is the path, right? The path is passed to it. For example, Drupal slash what was that?
Pak.
Okay, Pakistan slash
Wa.
wow. So this is the URL. Okay, so we should do something with it here, but first let me just, this route has all the values for the routes. Okay, so how to loop through all the values of it? Anybody? For each, how should I use it? This dot routes, as if I have to use the key value pairs, so how can I do it? Key and then $sign value, or this key is route and this is detail. Okay, if I have to print both in one dump, how can I do it? Dump, rather, first let us print the routes. So this is the first entry in the routing table, this is the second, this is the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and so on. Got it? These are all those values which we have added here in the in index.php router add routes. So each entry we pass to the add routes is added to the array, and here we are now looping through that array in the routers match method, just to show you that these values are there. Okay. Now I will just write things here stepwise so that you understand what we will be doing. Loop through all the routes in the array, right, which we are doing now. Then convert each route entry to its regex pattern, and then match the path with regex pattern. If it matches, return the controller and action. Let us do it now. So loop through all the routes in the array. So for example, if the match function is used, it will have a path. Okay, but for now, just forget about what is being passed to it. We will loop through all the array keys of this array. All the routes are there in this array, right? So the first thing is loop through all the routes in the array, then convert each route entry to its regex pattern. So as we are printing it, we will now change it to a function. So let us make that function here, which is called method actually. So we will make it private function, change URL, change route to regex. This is going to be a function and will be passed a route like this. So we will do the changing here in this and we will return, for example, pattern. So this is the method we will be using. So for each route for each route we will call this function. So how to call it now? This name of the function is change route to regex, and we will pass it the route method, keyword, this route, whatever is in the key. Okay, for now let us just dump here, dump route. So do you think we will have the same effect? Because we are looping through the route and calling this function, and here we are returning that route. So hopefully we will have no change. Okay, this is just ignore it, the pattern which is not yet set. So we are again having all the routes here, right? Okay, here the magic should happen. This and we will assign it as it returns the pattern, so we will assign it the pattern here, a variable called pattern. Here let me create the pattern for every route, and the focus, our focus is if I go to index.php again, this one. Okay, this is the route. So for example, this is now the route. We will create a regular regex expression for this, and then match the path to that regex. I have written, because this is very tricky, so I have written all these paths here. Loop through all the routes in the array, convert each route entry into its regex pattern, match the path with the regex pattern, path which is in the URL. This it is passed to the match. So we will be matching whatever is changed to the pattern, we will be matching it with the path, and then it will return the. So let us start it. The pattern should be okay. We will call it elements. So what are the elements of the each pattern, each route? How many elements it has? One, this one, and then this one. Okay, so I need to break it based on this. So what should I do so that it becomes an array? This is basic PHP question. It is a string actually, controller/action. I want to break it into two parts based on this. Explode. So basically that's the concept of splitting into array. So it will be explode elements. Explode. What should it explode? Based on this, the array. So not the array, the route. This is being passed to it. Route and this. Okay, now this has become an array. Okay, so if this has become an array, we can loop through it. For example, let me just loop through it for now. So for each $elements as el dump $el like this. So what will we be getting show and article. This is for this one. Rather, let us start from this. The first one is controller/action. So it has broken down it into controller and action. Similarly, the regex, then we have Drupal, Pakistanwa, and so on. So all the those have been broken down into, but it is in the loop. That's why it is doing it for all the entries. So if we, for example, for now just comment out, if I go to index, how many entries in the routes are? The first one is this, second is this. So it loops through all of this. So let us quickly for now comment it out. So now how many entries we will have? One, because we have only one now, and it should be controller and action. That's it, the first one only. We will uncomment those again later on. Okay, where were we? In the router.php. Okay, here what's that second convert each route entry into its regex pattern. So now we are in the route entry controller / action with the brackets. So now we need to change it into its regex path. Okay, but we are not going to use for each. You may remember from JavaScript, the map function, there is array underscore map in PHP also. So for example, elements equals array underscore map. In JavaScript is map. It is passed a function, callback function with these brackets, and here each element should be EL, right? Yeah, and the second should be the array, so elements, and it should always return something, and it becomes an array as well. Okay, so for example, I want to add regex with the elements right now. This is an array broken down. The route has been broken down into two pieces, and we want every element, to be concatenated with. So it should be el dot regex, something like this. So now if we dump elements, how should it be?
Control regex or action regex.
Exactly. So you can notice here it will be regex added with these online
elements.
Here it is.
Elements.
Interesting. Elements is this. So elements common function regex function el dot. Okay, we are not returning anything. It should always be returned, just like JavaScript, if you remember. So you can see originally it was this, now regex has been concatenated with it. Similarly, this one is action, so regex is concatenated with it. So it's the same array, but you do something per row with each of the elements. So similarly, here now we will return the regex for it, actual regex, not the text. Okay, so for example, I will change it to, as I said, we will be using hashes because we can have paths. So this is for the first item now. Okay, it should start with this, it means the starting, and $sign means the ending, right? Then is these two brackets, but it has some meaning for these middle brackets have some meaning in regex, so we will escape them with the escape character like this, and this one also. Here we will write something so that it is basically going to pass it. So for example, it is a-b. What does this mean? We already have studied it. Sorry, a to z, and then a to z and 0 to 9 for example. It means the first letter will always be a character, and then we can have either characters or numbers, right? And what does this mean? So 0 or more. So the first should always be something, and then 0 or more of these numbers. This is going to be okay. And if we want to make it look like into a character set, so it should be like this. This is one capture group, capture group, okay. But if you want to name the capture group, so that also we can do now. So it's question mark, but before that let us do something else. We need to check if the route variable, this in the loop, because we are looping through it, this el is the route variable, it matches this string now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we will create an if statement for now. If break underscore match, and let us assign this a variable, pattern is equal to this. So if break underscore match, the first parameter is pattern, and then it is going to be what? El, and then the matches array. You already know about what matches are, and here we will dump the matches array. Matches, else just for now we will dump doesn't match. And for now let us not return anything, just leave it like this. Okay, so what we are doing, we are looping through the elements of this array via the array underscore map function. It is pass el, it means this is the iteration variable.
Yes, sir.
In the array. Right now we have constructed a regex so that we can know that this el will match it. So just to check whether this el will match it, this is the pattern, it's the el and then the matches. So if it matches, it will be dumping the matches array, otherwise it will say doesn't match. So let us try. So it is matching. Maybe we can print matching also. Dump, it is matching it. Okay, it is matching it. So what is being matched? This controller is being matched because it is looping through the elements of the route, and the capture group shows the value also. How? Because if you see, this is, we have hard coded the middle bracket, escaping it, and this is being escaped also, and we are using the capture group here, this small bracket, so it captures it different separately as well. We already have studied it. So it is saving this also, but this also. Okay, and if you remove these brackets, for example these small brackets, would you be able to see the second row in the matches array? No, because that is used for that purpose. You can see it just now shows the match, but the brackets is used for capturing. So we will undo the change, capture group. Is this clear? So it is basically doing it for both the controller as well as the action. Okay, now the next thing is so if it matches, it means we should do something for it. So if preg underscore match this, so what we can do is now we can use return. And what should be returned? Another regular regex expression like this, start and end. It should start from this and end at $sign this. Here we need to have this and this. And we should have the name capture groups like this. In A to Z and multiple times like this. Okay, here we need to have the name of the this name controller, and for this one it should be action. So it is going to be dynamic, whatever it is. Okay, so how to access this one? We will break it and turn it into concatenation, and then matches 1. That's it. So now if preg underscore match pattern el this, so it will return what? This regular expression, and this is the named capture group, and the name should be, first time it should be controller and the second time it should be action automatically. And now I am going to do, okay, if we dump elements now, this is the dumping. What are you expecting? Let me quickly refresh. Initially this is where it is, elements, dump elements. Okay, so initially it was just $sign controller, if you remember. Now those values have been changed to its regular expression, which it matches. So 0 is this controller A to Z, and action is this. Okay, so if I come back to this point, convert each route entry to its regex pattern. So have we done this?
Yes.
We have changed each route entry
To regex pattern.
to its regex pattern, but the components only. So as a whole we also need to convert outside the function. Now it is ready, each chunk is ready. Now we need to return the pattern, this pattern. So the pattern is $sign pattern equals this. As I said, this is a bit confusing, but we will know what we are doing. So the overall, because we need to now combine these two, this and this, we need to combine these two regular expressions into one single expression. and maybe we don't need these hashes here at the moment. So let us make a small, because we have given these hashes to the individual ones as well, so let us remove those. Maybe they are extra. We just need these. We will give it to the wrapping one. You will see what I am doing. So here the pattern should be hash. It starts with the hash, and it should close with the hash as well, and then the caret sign and the dollar sign, the dollar sign. The elements is an array, and it should have, we need to have all the elements as a single string. So now we will be doing the opposite of explode. What it is? Implode. So regex, we'll call it regex implode, and it should implode it by this comma, which function, which array? Elements. So regex is now this. Here we will use this regex. So how can we do it? Dollar sign and dot, like this, and here we will use dollar sign regex. And for now let us just dump pattern before printing it to see how it is. So this is the start, this is the end, and in between we have two pieces, these pieces. So now it is controller A to Z this, and action A to Z this, repeatedly. And we can even improve it. We can make it, for example, if some controller has some number in it, or some action has some number in, so we can use that also. So let us change it to A to Z and 0 to 9, something like this, or A to Z 0, maybe afterwards like this, A to Z and 0 to 9. Okay, so if we check the regex again, the completed regex, so now it shows this is the named capture group A to Z, and then A to Z 0 to 9, and similarly, and notice the slash, we have combined it again.
Yes.
So this is first part. For example, if this is Drupal, okay, so this will be the controller, and if this is some method name, so it will be action. Okay, so return pattern means we are not dumping it anymore, we will returning it. So where it is returned, we are using this method here. For each route as route name, detail, whatever, this dot change route to regex route. So this pattern will be now available to us. If I dump it here, do you think it will be available?
Yes.
Because it is being returned from that function. So there is no change. Okay, now the most interesting part, and that is, if this is the pattern, here we again will be using, and we pass the path. What is the path? Server variable URL. Okay, remember in index.php, if you remember, we just use this parse URL, this function, whatever is the URL path. So it is URL which is passed to this match function here. So here in the router we will if $preg underscore match pattern we are getting from this method, this one. Okay, so if preg match pattern comma $path comma matches, that's it. Okay, if it matches, so let us dump it, the matches array for now. Dump $matches, else and we should return, for now let us just dump or dd is good. So what should it be? Maybe abc/def. By the way, I have learned how to zoom URLs, so you can see, sorry, abc/def, right? And it says route not found /def. Okay, and how to make it 0 again? Let us check why it is saying route not found, but it is not this doing it, so maybe dump or dd. So now this is, there must be some problem in it, so let us check. Let us debug path also, just to see. $dd path. Okay, so the path is abc/def. Are we using the slash with it at the with the pattern, initial pattern, this one? We are not using it, so we should have probably a slash here, just to check if things are working this way. We are using dd, so let us remove the dd or maybe comment it out. And finally we are able to get it. So now this code is running. It means the preg underscore match has happened.
Yes, sir.
Okay, it was just a matter of using that slash with, but we can remove the slash here. We'll tackle with the slash in a while, but at least it is now working fine. So what should it do if it matches it? We are DDing the matches array. So let us examine what the matches array is. So abc/def is the path. So the controller is what? abc, and the action is def. Do you think we need these three values? No. So the same trick we used for in the regex file. Let us quickly copy it, this one, and use it here. this matches is equal to array underscore matches is string and array filter use case, so that we can remove the numeric keys from the array. So now controller and action. Is this clear? Now what do you expect from this? We should return this matches array, not DD it. Return $matches. So if it is returned, it has the controller key and the action key. And in index.php here we are calling if router match URL. If URL is matched, so it is returning what? The array which is saved in this detail. And then what we do is we just call the controller. That's it. Got it? We already know what this code does. So here now what can be the error? For example, right now if I access abc/def, what should be the error?
Router is not found.
Router not found or class not found? Because the routing
Class
works
not
well.
found, sir. Class not found, yes, sir.
It will say class not found, probably.
Yes,
abc not found.
yes, sir.
Class, this why? Because the routing is working fine,
Yes, sir.
but now it doesn't have the corresponding classes.
Yes.
We need to just create the classes. So let me zoom this URL again and like this. For example, I create a class, a controller which name is cricket. For example, the controller name should be cricket and the method name should be about, cricket/about. If I access it, still I get class app controllers cricket not found.
Not found, yes.
So what should we do now? We should first create a class, call it cricket,
Yes, sir.
and it should have a method called about. So we will have some output.
Yes, sir.
So let us quickly do it. If we go to controllers, new file, I will call it cricket.php. It should be, now your role is just to create classes and actions.
Yes, sir.
Classes and actions, that's it. Class cricket, and it should be namespace as app/controllers. Class is cricket. It should have a method, public method, public function. What is about? Okay, about. And here we'll just print for now, or let us dump it. We have the lovely dump method. Dump, this is about cricket. Okay, so do you think if I refresh the page there will be some change here?
Yes, sir.
That's it. Now you have created a mechanism in which any two pieces URL will be considered as, the first one should be considered as a controller and the second one should be considered as an action. You just need to, you don't need to have all those millions of entries in this array, because prior to this we would have to write here cricket and about also, cricket and mission and all of that stuff. But now just with the help of regex we have created a very powerful mechanism. We will continue this further in the next lecture.